Hi. So today I just wanted to ramble about Andrade. Remember that guy? Just because of the entire situation that's happened with the guy, what I think of him as a wrestler. And honestly, just like I said, what the hell's going on? So, if you don't know, Andrade is obviously a Mexican wrestler. He was in NXT Black and Gold, where he was probably his most prominent version of himself. The guy had Selena Vega at the time. He was NXT champ. In a very successful period for NXT. There was a lot of hype built around the guy. And then he eventually made his way to AEW, where he had a decent first run. It wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't incredible, but it wasn't bad. He was definitely a figure of play. But, he just, for what everyone hyped Andrade up to be in NXT Black and Gold, it just felt like, I don't know, it just feels like the guy could have been a true main eventer, and he never was that. But then again, it was early day AEW. So Andrade went back to WWE because I don't know if he was engaged to Charlotte Flair before or after he went to AEW, but whatever. So he went back to WWE, and when he went back to WWE, there was a lot of hype built around the guy. He come back in the Royal Rumble of this year, I think it was 25. He come in the Rumble this year. And bear in mind, he left AEW on great terms. He left on good terms, thanked everyone, unlike other wrestlers that do so. And Andrade's run in WWE has been very lackluster, to say the least. I'm a fan of Andrade in ring. I think he's really good. I think people overrate the guy in some aspects, act like he's the second coming of Mexican wrestling, when the guy's excellent. I'm never going to deny it. I just feel like sometimes he just isn't showcased the right way, but everyone still praises him like he is. It's weird. I think the guy's got it. I think it's just the fact of showcasing him in the right light. And at a company like WWE, they don't really focus and let you have the freedom of in-ring stuff like AEW does specifically. That's why the AAA stuff does so well, in my opinion, because they've got a lot more freedom to do what they want in the ring. I feel like Andrade needs that, and I feel like the best thing Andrade had from because again, I don't really watch WWE anymore. I kind of fell out with it. Different topic, but I feel like the best thing I ever saw from Andrade since his WWE return was the Carmelo Best of 7. And I like LA Knight. I think he's a great wrestler. I think everything about him. I like the guy. But he ruined it. And then after that, bear in mind, that Best of 7 with Melo, they were good matches. They were fun matches. They were quite high speed for WWE especially. And it was for the US belt. LA Knight got involved in the 7th match, ruined it. Bear in mind, it was compared to the Sheamus and Claudio stuff, or Cesaro stuff back in the day, their Best of 7. So it was really interesting. And it was making some stuff watchable. And then he ruined it, and then eventually LA Knight dropped the belt to Shinsuke Nakamura in 2025. Now, that just said everything you need to know. But after this, Andrade reportedly no-showed WWE. He divorced Charlotte Flair, and he basically made his way back to AEW, where he showed up to attack Kenny Omega a few months back and joined the Don Callis family. Now, the huge thing about this is, obviously, if you've not been aware, after Andrade left WWE due to termination of contract, apparently there was a clause in there that was non-compete for over a year. It's a weird situation. So Andrade and AEW didn't know about this, apparently. So Andrade, that's why that's not really being acknowledged every time. So they can't really speak about it until he is cleared to come back. But then, what they were doing back then as well, they were setting up Kenny, the Golden Lovers, to reunite Kenny and Kota Ibushi versus Alexander and Andrade. That's what the setup was. And, obviously, Kenny ended up fighting Josh Alexander because of Andrade not being able to wrestle there, and Kota Ibushi breaking his leg. So it did work out in a way, but still, it's such a shame because there's two great wrestlers there. Now we're in the point where it's December 2025, and bear in mind, I think the Andrade situation was around late September, early October, if not before then. And we've just seen him appear on an indie show. I forget what the indie show is. And that's in America. So it's like, okay, so where are we at with the Andrade stuff? And everyone's saying he's supposed to be, it's in the place where AEW are filming this week or next week, whatever. So there's a likelihood people are saying he comes back for the first show of the year, stuff like this. I don't know. I don't really have much to say about Andrade when he comes back. I think they'll come back and not re-debut him like he redoes the Kenny thing. I think they'll just have him in the Don Callis family. I think he'll come out attack, but then he'll cut a promo rather than be like a surprise. You know what I mean? I think it'll be a promo. I think he'll try and say, I'm here for good, stuff like that. I like Andrade as an in-ring wrestler. I do. I feel like AEW is a better fit for him. Again, I think he needs more freedom in the ring. I think as a promo, he's improved. I feel like a lot of people give a lot of flack to him because he can't speak English as fluently as, as an American or a British person. But I think it doesn't really matter in a company like AEW. Don't get me wrong, you have these mouthpieces which are great, but I don't think Andrade is being portrayed as a leader of a faction, especially in AEW. He led his own faction, and I just feel like that suits the guy. I think Don Callis family would suit him because the faction's absolutely stacked. It's just I feel like I don't know. Andrade's kind of weird to portray and present as a character. It's weird because the in-ring stuff's there. It's just with the Zelina Vega thing, that's the peak of his career, arguably. The guy had a great mouthpiece. It was aggressive. She had an importance. It's probably the peak of Zelina Vega's career, and just it worked because he was champ. He was presented as a top dog, and there's a lot of wrestlers that have that. A lot of wrestlers can't be portrayed as a mid-carder. It kills the appeal. But as a genuine top dog, someone at the top of the top, or, main event, it works for them. There's a bunch of wrestlers like that. I'd argue Cody Rhodes is one of those, even though Cody Rhodes is a weird one because that's a whole different discussion. Cody Rhodes works as a champ in any type of sense, but he could not be challenging for the belt in terms of working his way up. It's weird. That's what my opinion on Cody Rhodes is. It's a weird one. But there's a bunch of wrestlers that can't really be mid-carders, but there's a lot of main-carders that could be mid-carders. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird balance. And I think Andrade is, as a wrestler, can do anything. I've got to make that very clear. But I feel like as a character presented, stuff like that, he's got the black mask, the suit, everything about him from what previously has been presented. The guy, I don't want to say he should, in AEW, I don't think he could be a main eventer yet. I think he could be a great person to be thrown in the TNT picture. But the problem is with AEW, with the TNT title picture, there's a lot of people that could fit into it because the main event scene's so packed right now that you want people to move up. And then you've also got the international belt currently being held hostage by Okada in the unification. So there's a lot to try and get past. I think if that was the case and they freed up the international belt, which I think they will, I think Andrade goes into that conversation. That could be good. I don't want him in a tag team. I think Andrade could be great. I think Andrade is a great wrestler and could do a tag team very well. I just think there's a lot of hype built around Andrade now. There's a lot of, not pressure, but a lot of interest, which is great because the guy is such a good wrestler. But I want him to just be on his own. Not on his own without the Don Callis family, but singles competitor. And I don't think there's a problem with that. And you look what's going to happen with the Don Callis family. Obviously, teasing Takesh there. And Okada feud, Takesh possibly leaving the Don Callis family. You saw Kyle Fletcher. Where does he fit in that? Does he stay? Does he go? Do other people go from the Don Callis family? Andrade fits the Don Callis family. And I think Don Callis, of all people, could elevate Andrade too. The fear for Andrade, for me, going back to AEW, is... one, he does, unfortunately, could he get lost in the shuffle? Absolutely. Do I think he does? No. I think they'll make a deal out of the guy, and I respect that. I think Tony's Khan's one of those people who rewards hard work. Look at Swerve, for instance. Great example. And I feel like he's the type of guy who would reward someone from leaving on amicable terms, coming back, and showing the willingness to work. That's obviously, it's all hypothetical. I don't know Andrade. But that's the guy Tony Khan seems to be. He rewards... Look at Mark Briscoe again. There's another guy. There's a bunch of people who he rewards for these, merits, essentially. And I think Andrade's shown a massive one there by returning to AEW and speaking so positively of the company, even when he was in WWE and left AEW. So I really respect that. For me, the fear what comes with is obviously Andrade's Mexican, and you got the CMLL stuff, which is not a problem. I love the CMLL stuff. You all know how much I love Mascara Dorada. It's just... with the Don Callis family, you've got Hechicero there too, who's a big face in CMLL for years, and obviously is a big face of the Mexican scene even today, even going back over and stuff. And Don Callis family is probably the number one Mexican guy. I worry that they'll try and have Andrade team with Hechicero, which I'm not against because they're both phenomenal wrestlers. It's just, again, I want Andrade as a singles guy. You could possibly tease a feud between those guys, but then it would be re-stepping over Okada and Takesh there, but I don't know. There's an obvious link between the two, and I kind of don't want that to happen. If you want my opinion, what to do with Andrade in the Don Callis family, have him presented the exact same way as Josh Alexander. 100%. Let the guy go, let the guy breathe, let the guy just be a full-on heel, let him have respect to Don Callis, let basically him be one of Don Callis' main workhorses, which is not a problem, because Josh Alexander's presentation is phenomenal, and that's a guy who, again, will be rewarded for the hard work, because the guy doesn't miss, all time. I know Josh Alexander's a phenomenal wrestler, perfect example of going out there, delivering week after week, consistency. Is part of that mold, the Roderick Strong-esque mold, Orange Cassidy-esque mold, where these guys don't need to change anything about them, and they go. I think Andrade needs to be that, and I think that works. I think Andrade is a great guy to be thrown on their Dynamite, a Collision, what have you, every week, and just, let him breathe, let him go, let him work, and that's all you need to do. The big thing I ask for Andrade is, again, just don't have him forced in tag teams and stuff. Don't mind having a tag team match now and again, but don't put him in the tag division. I don't want that. But the one thing I really would like to see is I want Andrade in a true feud. I think that's what needs the guy. I think with the amount of eyeballs and just attention drawn onto him now, and obviously the anticipation of the AEW debut, you've got to give him a feud. And it doesn't have to be like a huge title feud. He doesn't need to go in and challenge Samoa Joe or MJF or whoever. The MJF feud's on the table because they had a feud back and forth on Twitter. That's 100% on the table. And I wouldn't be against that. If there was a chance that Andrade could have won or could have went into the Diamond Ring Battle Royal, I would have had him win it. I would have had him win it and challenge MJF. I think that would have been the exact way to go. Obviously, it's impossible, but if Andrade was still in the company, if he was able to debut, he was in the company by now, that would have been the way to go, 100%. And yeah, there's a lot of guys. You could have Andrade challenge someone like a Bandido for the Ring of Honor belt, see how long he has that long for. Could challenge Mark Briscoe for the TNT belt. A lot of stuff. But I want a feud with the guy. The obvious answer, again, is probably MJF because of the prior knowledge of that. You could also run the Kenny stuff back finally, but then Kenny seems to be drawn into the trios division now, or just, basic tag wrestling, which is not a problem, but it works because Kenny's always going to be feuding with the Don Callis family. But I feel like if you get a singles feud with Kenny and Andrade, that'd be good, but the MJF feud's still on the table. Someone like a Bandido or Mark Briscoe, there's a bunch of names. AEW so stacked, we know how good these names could be. So there's a lot of options for Andrade. Really happy about that. The guy can obviously work. I think AEW is a great place for the guy. And the main thing for me is the presentation of the character, because there's a lot of avenues you can go with the guy, and that's a very commendable trait as a worker. It's just, let's just pick one and go down it. Let's not pick one and then go, okay, no, this isn't working, let's go. Because they've done that with a few wrestlers. His main obvious choice is Anthony Bowens. So let's not do the Anthony Bowens thing. Let's do the Josh Alexander thing where we just let him breathe. Something like a Speedball, stuff like that. That's the way to go. And they're recent signings, so they seem like the modern way they're thinking and doing things. So there's a lot of hope. And honestly, I've got a lot of high faith in this. I think Andrade will work. I think it would work. I think the anticipation will be worth it. I hope he gets a push. Simple as. I think he's a great wrestler, and I'm really looking forward to him debuting again. So what's your opinion on Andrade? What are you more familiar with? Is Black and Goldberg, his early AEW work, even before his WWE stuff, even Return? What's your opinion of the guy? Again, I've got a solid opinion on him. I'm not like the biggest Andrade guy, but what I've seen of the guy, I like. So I'm looking forward to him. Are you looking forward to his AEW return? And how do you think it'll go? Who would you give him for the first feud? That's the question I'll ask.